And so CIA season 1 episode 11 finally does what the series has been building toward all season. It starts closing on the mole, and surprisingly the episode pulls it off by borrowing one of the smartest tricks from Game of Thrones. With only one episode left in the season, the show narrows the suspect list down to three people. Colin and Bill realize there's only one way to expose the leak: give each suspect slightly different information and wait to see which version gets out. Fans of Game of Thrones will instantly recognize this as the classic Tyrion Lannister strategy, and honestly, it still works every single time. The episode starts off feeling like a routine case of the week story. Colin and Bill track down Sandy, the man who originally recruited Colin into the CIA. At first, it almost feels disconnected from the larger plot, like the show suddenly remembered it needed to give Colin more backstory before the finale. But then the case slowly circles back to the main conspiracy. Sandy has been trying to protect old CIA assets from someone called the Forbidden Eye, especially after one of those assets, Nora, is killed. The twist comes when they realize the translation was wrong all along. The phrase doesn't actually mean Forbidden Eye, it means Eye of the Pyramid, directly tying everything back to pyramid securities and the mole storyline. It's a clever connection, but it also highlights one of the season's biggest problems. CIA waited too long to properly build this mystery. Instead of planting meaningful clues throughout the season, the show is now cramping major reveals into the final episode. The pacing suddenly speeds up because it has no choice. At least the episode finally forces Colin's personal secrets into the open. Sarah learns the truth about his CIA role, but the real shock comes from Colin admitting that there were never genuine romantic feelings involved. Spy drama also goes the other direction, where agents eventually fall for their marks. Here, Colin completely shuts that idea down. It's brutal but also strangely refreshing because the show refuses to romanticize the lie. The emotional damage matters because Colin knows honesty is the only clean way forward, even if it hurts. Then comes the actual mole reveal. For weeks, the show heavily pushed Nikki as the obvious suspect, which honestly became part of the problem. There were barely any real clues pointing elsewhere, so the mystery started feeling less like a carefully planned storyline and more like the writers deciding things at the last minute. That's why the Tyrion style intel trap becomes the episode's strongest moment. Each suspect receives slightly different information about a stroller color, tried to classified intel. Once the leaked version resurfaces, the mole is exposed. Turner, and honestly, Turner being the mole feels both surprising and underwhelming at the same time. On one hand, it avoids the predictable Nikki reveal. On the other, Turner barely mattered for most of the season, so the emotional impact isn't as strong as it could have been. The storyline probably needed another episode or two to really breathe. Imagine if the show had spent more time making viewers genuinely suspicious of both Turner and Zeeb. Instead of constantly hammering Nikki as the obvious answer, the reveal would have landed much harder. Still, the episode doesn't stop there. After Colin stabs Turner to keep him alive long enough for questioning, someone disguised as a doctor sneaks into the hospital and kills him before he can reveal anything important about Pyramid. Bill and Colin somehow never seriously consider the possibility that the conspiracy would try to silence him, which again makes both characters look less sharp than they should. But the final twist changes everything. The fake doctor turns out to be Tony, Colin's former partner, who was supposedly dead the entire time. That reveal completely reframes Colin's past. According to everything he believed, Tony died while he was there. He never had any reason to question it. Now he has to face something even worse than betrayal inside the CIA. The possibility that the woman he loved faked her death and lied to him for years. That's the emotional hook the season desperately needed heading into the finale. Sandy warns earlier in the episode that solving a case often comes with a price, and Tony's return feels like that price finally catching up to Colin. The conspiracy suddenly becomes personal in a much deeper way. CIA season 1 episode level may have rushed some of its major reveals, but it absolutely succeeds at setting up an explosive finale. The mole is exposed, the pyramid conspiracy is growing larger, and Colin's entire understanding of his past has just been shattered in the worst possible way. Thank you for watching. Bye.